What's going on, my friends? I'm Dustin Stelzer with Electrician U, and today's Q&A day. All right, before we get started on that, it's quiz time! Today's quiz question is going to come from the U.S. Navy. We got the Navy Neats mods. Let's look at charged bodies. The space between and around charged bodies in which their influence is felt is called a what? There's actually 3 names, so see if you can guess all of the things. Stay tuned to the end, because I always tell the answer at the end to trick you into watching this whole boring ass video. Bodies. There's an order that we do these. So typically, the beginning of the episode, we talk about less technical questions from the audience, from all the YouTube questions that you guys sent in. Then we go to a little bit more technical section, and then at the end, we do the technically nothing. More like fandom and random. So let's break into it for our less technical questions. We have Ryan Jones, and this is on the Q&A video from 7/16, writes, with a master electrician license or certification, can you rough in and trim out houses by yourself without a contractor license? No. I know if you have employees under you that you need insurance and liability and stuff for the business, but I don't know if the same applies if you run it entirely on your own. So you, as a master electrician, you can work for somebody else and work under their contractor's license, but in most states, the contractor's license is the license to do work, to have a company, to actually hold insurance. And in California they have the C10, but it's still a contractor's license. The 10 just means electrician instead of like plumber, which is like, I don't know, 29 or 39 or some weird number. But the contractor's license is what carries the insurance. The master is who's allowed to apply for the contractor's license. So here in Texas, I have to have both. I have to get my master license, and I can just choose to work for a different company, or I can go get my contractor's license to start my own company and work for myself and do have insurance and have people working under me. So to most states too, for you to even get your hours signed off on, you have to work under a master electrician, but you have to work under a contractor's license for those hours to qualify. Not everywhere, but that is most of the deal. So there's some states that don't have strict regulations on journeymen and apprentices. There's places where there is no apprentice or journeyman or anything, just people out there throwing wire around doing electrical work legally because there is no jurisdiction in their area. But no, for the most part, that was what you have to do. You have to get a contractor's license, and you can't get one until you're a master. And then you need insurance to be able to even carry that. And then you can start hiring people. Next is from B Freedom Pillow. On the same Q&A video, hey man, I'm a union electrician and I've been out of work for 4 months. Shitty. Meanwhile, open shop is staying busy, so I'm debating taking a pay cut just so I can stay busy. I would be going from 30 hour plus benefits. $30 an hour plus benefits, I think is what he meant to say. But only work half the year to 20 with benefits and stay busy. Would you say that that's a bad choice? I would say go where the work is. I mean, really, if you're sitting at home for 4 months, I don't know a single electrician in Austin that sits at home for 4 months. I don't know anybody that's sitting at home, really. The demand here is so high, and there's so many damn electricians, and the demand's still really high, that there's just work everywhere. None of us stopped working through COVID. I live in an area too where it's not heavily unionized, and by and large, Austin's kind of like that keep Austin weird vibe. So we don't really get affected by a lot of the stuff that the rest of the country is affected by. So that's not like saying that your area is stupid or anything because you're sitting on the couch. I'm just saying you are the first person I have heard say that they're an electrician and they've been on the couch. So I would say to go where the work is. If the union can't provide work for you, that's the reason you're in the union, is so that they can constantly keep you working and have new opportunities for you and protect you and make sure you've got all of insurance and everything. It's a very structured environment for that reason. But if you're not able to get work with the union, that defeats the purpose of being in the union, in my opinion. Not saying the union's bad. I love the union, think the union's great, always recommend people go union. And I'm not union, but I would say if like you can go to a merit shop or an open shop or non-union shop, and you can get work, like fucking dude, get off the fucking couch and go get a job, homie. Easy question, you know, like easy answer. You got to pay your bills. And if one's not doing it and the other is, like, fuck, dude, I ain't got any hate on that. Do you? All right, next is Wayne Collins. Same video, Q&A. Is there a certification I can get as a homeowner that lets me legally modify electric in my home? No! Stay away from your own electrical. A lot of states have like a homeowner's permit that you can pull, which means that you can do work by yourself as long as you don't hire any contractors to also come in and do work. If a contractor is going to come in, a contractor has to pull their own permit so that the line of liability goes to them and somebody can sue somebody and the right person gets sued for screwing something up. That's why they do that. But a homeowner permit, if you really want to do your own work, you're still going to have to go through an inspection process and everything, but it's a little bit more lenient. But you're taking all of the liability by getting one of those permits, and you're signing over all of the financial everything, liability. You're taking all of it. If it's not done right, if something happens, if somebody dies in the house, the paperwork goes back to you. So as a homeowner, that's why there is such thing as a homeowner's permit, where you can do all of it. But you can't pull a homeowner's permit, get halfway through your electrical, realize you fucked the whole thing up, and then call an electrician and be like, hey, I've already got a permit pulled. Can you come and finish the work? No, they're going to have to cancel your permit. They're going to have to come in and charge you 10 times more because you fucked everything up. And now they got to undo all of your fuckery. And they're going to have to pull their own permit, get their own inspections. So I would just be careful about that whole thing. I understand a lot of people want to save money, but it ends up, the amount of money that I've made as a career electrician on husbands that thought they could do this shit and fucked it up royally, I'd say like probably 3/4 of the residential work I've ever done, like in the remodel kind of environments, trouble, or like just getting calls from like fucked up stuff. There's so much. I've made so much money off the backs of husbands that thought they could do something and tried to end COVID. They were bored. They wanted to blah, 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 blah. They've gotten electrocuted, or like just so many things. So for electrical, hire an electrician. You're not really saving that much money. In the end, when you screw something up and you have to call an electrician to come out, and now they have to do more and charge you way more because they got to undo all your craziness or figure out what you did and open everything up. So that's my recommendation. I always tell people, just stay away from electrical. That's the one thing. If you want to like frame up a wall, you want to put some sheetrock up, you want to do like maybe hang a ceiling fan or something like that, that's totally different. But when you're talking about wiring a whole house, installing a service, trying to do all of your own electrical work, I recommend people stay away. Dubmans, can you install a fan without shutting the breaker off in that room? Just turn the light switch off. So the ceiling fans video. Yeah, I mean, you can really, like in a room where all you have is a switch that goes up to a fan, you can shut the switch off and then go in the room and do the work. Depends on the situation. If you have a lot of other people coming in and out of rooms, somebody could just flip that thing on while you're on top of a ladder. So it's always minimizing risk as an electrician and figuring out a way that you can guarantee you're not going to get shocked. But even that, you can't guarantee if you go shut the breaker off of the panel that somebody's not going to go turn it back on and come into your room and turn the thing on. So it's just, I would try to maximize your risk as much as possible. This is why we have LOTO, or lockout tagout procedures. So there's reasons why breakers get locked and an actual lock gets put on it, a key gets put in a lockbox that only certain people have access to, so that you can literally lock a breaker shut in the off position. And there's no way in hell you working on a piece of equipment that somebody's going to come up behind you and turn that thing back on. So lockout tagout kind of addresses that, but in this situation that's kind of extreme. I would just like watch the doorway while you're putting things on. But no, you're right, like you don't really have to do that. It's up to you when you're working on stuff to know your environment. If you got little kids running around too, they might think it's funny to like come and hit a light switch. So that's why I would say to shut the breaker off. But again, as an electrician, most of the time when I go in to change a ceiling fan, I'm just going to go over and flip that light switch and get up on my ladder and do my thing. All right, last one for this section is from Tyrone Yenneal. Yenne. I don't even, sometimes I don't, is it Spanish? Like Yenneal? I don't know. Oh, I hate reading people's names. Some of them are funny though. Some of y'all got some really, really good names. All right, on the ceiling fans video again, question. If the house is older wiring, I mean like really old, can I still fit one of the present day ceiling fans with the light and fan running off the switch, or do you have to stay with the pole chain? Good question. So if you have your hot neutral that were wired into the ceiling, not brought down to the switch with a switch leg up, instead brought to the ceiling and probably have a switch loop down with no even neutral present in the switch box, you could fish another wire down. If you didn't want to do the pull chain thing, like you're right, because there's a constant hot, you don't have a wire that's going to a switch somewhere where you can actually flip switches. But you could just fish one down, get up in the attic, or if you have like a pier and beam house and you can get underneath it, drill some holes and like fish a new wire through to the space. But yeah, you're pretty much stuck to that. Or you could get like a wall remote kind of fan too, because most of them, they don't need a switch. So if you hang a fan, a lot of them will have like an RF module that goes up inside of them, and it speaks to a remote, and you can actually just like hang the remote on the wall. So when you come in, you just hit the wall control. Sometimes there's actual in-wall controls that you can hang as well, so you don't have like an exterior remote that you're going to lose. But that way, it's just you're hitting a button and it's talking radio frequency to the fan to turn the light on and to change the speed. So that's a way to get around having to do running a wire if you don't want to. That was a really good question. So the next section is the more technical questions. We have Egglet on the ceiling fans video. Does anyone know if you have to torque a receptacle by code? All right. Tightening torque tables Annex I. It says in italic, this informative annex is not part of the requirements of this NFPA document, but is included for informational purposes only. It says in the absence of connector or equipment manufacturer's recommended torque values, I1, I2, and I3 may be used, doesn't have to be used. So here's the thing. We're supposed to be installing things to the manufacturer's spec, right? So what that quite literally means is if there's a piece of equipment that has torquing information, it has a sticker that comes like say inside of an electrical panel, and there is something that says you must tighten all of these lugs to 250 inch-pounds or whatever of torque per the manufacturer's recommendation. You have to do that because that is what the manufacturer says. So if, like another thing, I have a video out there about not using anti-oxidizing no-lux on terminations. Well, nobody's using it correctly. There's a way you have to use it, and nobody uses it like that. People just dunk the fucking wire in and go and screw the thing, screw the end of a wire into a terminal. That's not how you use it. So everybody's using it wrong. We have to install things how the manufacturers spec it out for us to do it. That is why this whole torque thing is an issue. So if a piece of equipment has torque values on it, yeah, you need to. Does everybody do it? Fuck no. Probably 90% of people don't. They make torque screwdrivers now. I have maybe met a couple of people in very specific environments for very specific reasons that have even ever had torque screwdrivers. If you have one and you're a super extra awesome, baller awesome electrician, then good on you. I've got a whole bunch of like actual torque wrenches. I've got digital ones from Milwaukee and all that. When I am tightening my lugs at service panels, meters, things like that, I do tighten all of my torque settings, but I'm not going around every receptacle with a torquing screwdriver. Now, in my area, they're starting to crack down on that more, and that's a local jurisdiction that they're making sure that we're enforcing, and they're pushing us to do that more. But as far as the National Electric Code, there's nothing in here that says that you have to torque your terminations. Now, I'm going to make sure that that's right. One thing that we can do is we can check in 110. So 110 talks a lot about like spaces about electrical equipment or like general things about working with electrical equipment. So in 110D, 110.14D, we've got terminal connection torque. Tightening torque values for terminal connection shall be as indicated on equipment. or installation instructions provided by the manufacturer. An approved means shall be used to achieve the indicated torque value. So that's all it says. There's some informational notes, but it's all about what the manufacturer says on the equipment. And if it is on the equipment, then it does have to be torqued to a certain level. So the old code said, where tightening torque is indicated as a numeric value on equipment or installation instructions provided by the manufacturer, a calibrated torque tool shall be used to achieve this indicated torque value unless the equipment manufacturer has provided installation instructions for an alternative method of achieving the required torque. So that is 110.14D from the 2017 code book. If you're still under that, 2020, they just kind of reworded it, put it a little bit fancier, but it still says you have to follow manufacturer specs on all that stuff. All right, next we have a comment on the three ways can be video. I love the title of that. Three ways can be. Drake, that reminds me of as far is. Drake has a song called As Far Is. Anyways, it's just every time I see this, I think of As Far Is. Three ways can be. Okay, David Slade, freaking awesome video on the Chicago three-way, what potential problems can occur with reversed polarity. So the big issue with reversed polarity, obviously AC electrical, everything's changing polarity 60 times a second, right? We have vibrating back and forth, hot, neutral, hot, neutral, hot, neutral. So really the problem that occurs with switching the polarity and where it's coming from in a light socket is that you should never have potential between neutral and ground. You should always have the same potential, neutral and ground. You should have hot to neutral, a difference of potential, and you should have hot to ground, a difference of potential. But since neutral and ground are bolted together, if you're energizing neutral, you're also energizing ground. Or if they're not bonded, you now have a difference of potential. You have voltage between a neutral and ground. So it's a place where somebody touching something that shouldn't be energized could be energized and get electrocuted. Plus people that assume, like sticking their finger in a light socket, they assume the maybe nobody assumes, maybe I'm an electrician. I feel like that's common sense, but like the part of the screw shell that you're putting the light bulb in, you shouldn't get shocked. And if you stick your finger all the way in on that little tab and against like the screw shell, you're going to get shocked. But I feel like that's a common sense thing. Maybe not. But if you're all of a sudden like touching that screw shell and you're like barefoot on the floor or something like that and you get electrocuted, that's the hazards, really. I don't think it's hurting people more than it is just like somebody got hurt maybe and they caught it and they're like, oh, this is a big fucking problem. So it was outlawed a long time ago. All right, next one is on the three ways can be video. For those of you that haven't watched this video, go watch it and let me know what you think. It's a bunch of different ways that you can wire three-way switches. The old ways that are outlawed, California three-way, Chicago three-way, or the traveling bus three-way, as some people call. Dead-end three-ways, standard three-ways, but we did some animations and stuff, so it's actually a pretty good video. All right, next we have Reaper RAC. Is it common for three-way switches to leak voltage to the terminal? For instance, I came across a three-way for an outside light. You could turn it off or on from the garage or the front door with the switches in the off position. I was still getting 30 to 40 volts to the light. I had another situation where a lighted three-way cycles the LED bulb in a ceiling fan. There's not enough to keep the LED on, but enough to cycle them for a split second. So, good question. I wouldn't call it leaking voltage. Voltage is not a quantity. A lot of people misunderstand what voltage really means. There's not a quantity of like volts in a bucket that can like leak out, right? Voltage is a relationship between two things. So it means between this thing and this thing, there's pressure, there's an ability, there's potential so that a electromotive force can actually force current to move through a wire. But it's a relationship between two things that exists. So you're not leaking a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So that's not correct to say that it's a leaking voltage. If you're turning things off and on from the front door, switches in the off position, still getting 30 to 40 volts. That could be a neutral issue. You could have a traveler going somewhere. You could have a neutral going somewhere. And then like it's tied into like 70 different circuits throughout the house, and just the length of the resistance of that total conductor length that you're reading is reading a voltage that's not actually present. So that's a lot of times what we call a ghost voltage, right? It's either you're reading a voltage that's not truly there, or there's a voltage there that you're not reading. That's what a ghost voltage is considered. But a lot of times it has to do with actual resistance, or reactance, whatever, impedance in a circuit of the actual conductor material versus the digital means of testing that you're using. They're not 100% accurate because they can't diagnose what's actually going on in the circuit. They're just seeing, like, between this wire and this wire, we're sensing inside of this little thing, this little circuit that's in here, that there's some kind of like difference between these, but it's not necessarily a true voltage. So you might not actually be getting 30 to 40 volts. You're just reading that you have a 30 to 40 volts. That's one thing. Another thing, there could actually be like some weird neutral problem. A lot of times at switch locations, neutral problems exist, especially on three-ways. So if something is hooked up in some really funky way to make a circuit work, and you have a neutral problem, a lot of times you'll read bizarre voltages like that. As far as the lighted three-way, I've run into that situation too, where you have like a special dimmer or something that has, in a dark room, you can see where the dimmer is because the whole thing is backlit. There's like a little light inside of the circuit, and to make that light turn on when the switch is off, it constantly has current flowing through it. A lot of times it'll change to like a smaller voltage or whatever, but just being that there is a current going through that circuit, a lot of times it'll allow current to go through the rest of the circuit because there's not enough resistance on that circuit to stop any current that's going through. So a lot of times you'll actually have a little bit of current flowing through a conductor, not enough to turn a light bulb on when you think the switch is off, but it's not actually, because there is current moving. And the more loads that you have on that switch leg, the less the current can travel. It's building up high enough resistance so that current can't flow. But in the case where you still see an LED on and you have a light that's off, and you disconnect the wires and it shuts off, but you reconnect the wires and the switch is off, that there's enough potential in that switch that is allowing current to flow through because there's not enough resistance on that circuit. So I've heard of people doing things like adding a resistor of some sort to the circuit just to make that go away, or adding additional loads. Adding a higher load would essentially do the trick, but to get that to go away. So yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff that happens. A lot LED lights too. Sometimes it's just a function of like if you shut something off and you see like an LED bulb just go back on and off real quick. Sometimes there's weird like capacitance that'll just stay in something. These bulbs are not made to like the highest qualities. They're made like, most LED technology is made by the cheapest bidder overseas, and they're sent to us. So LEDs are, while they work, they're not like this magical, they're not a Tesla, man. They're not like, crazy technology that's built. Most of them are really crappy and they burn out and they need to be replaced, which kind of avoids the whole get LEDs in your house because you never have to replace them. No, you do. If you do get some shitty ones that are made in China, you will. I'm sorry. Anyways, hope that answered your question. Moving on, we've got Pedro Alvarez on the three-ways video. What about use a relay, normally open, normally closed, to start a three-way switch and activate the relay with a microcontroller like Arduino? Is it on code? I mean, sure, no, that's not in code. You could use a relay, like that's kind of the same thing as just using like a photocell or using a time clock to energize something, like a normally open, normally closed contact to turn something on. You could do all of that. I don't know why you would want to. If you're trying, if you're worried about the feds coming on your land and you're putting like tripwire around things and you want to control logic in a way that it can turn lights on and turn lights off, but it just seems like there's way easier ways. There's like apps that you can just do this shit from, bro. You don't have to do all of that. But anyways, yeah, you could do that, but there's nothing in code that says like you can or can't use a relay to control a light. This is more like a minimum standards guide for when you do install something, what you need to make sure so the circuit doesn't hurt somebody, destroy the equipment, burn a house down, or burn a building down, or kill somebody. That's really it. So there's not like it's how-to manuals or certain things you have to use or can't use. It's more just like general rules for the safety and equipment of like people and equipment kind of thing. Okay, so now moving on. The technically nothing questions. My favorite, the fandom and random. This is the silly stuff. All right, we've got VZY Lexi. Your background music always reminds me of Legends of the Hidden Temple. Good stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, man. So Drake makes all of the music. He edits all the videos. We have this new style that we've kind of just defined as like 8-bit funk. We've been calling it that for years. Like, there's nothing else that really defines it. But like, I told him when we started doing this stuff like years ago, I was like, dude, I want the sounds that we make, the music to kind of sound like you're stuck in a Zelda level, you know, or like, I just want it to be kind of like shitty quality games and like video game kind of arcade from the 80s, and you know, just like go with that and make a bunch of music. So that's kind of what his whole like thing has been. All right, next up we got Kevin. How much do you charge to replace a ceiling fan? Depends on the fan. You know, there's variables that go into it. Usually I charge a $50 trip charge, $150 an hour with a 1 hour minimum. If I'm hanging a fan, if it's an easy fan, I can hang that in like 15 minutes. So I still charge that 1 hour. So it'd still be just $200 for me to like literally walk out my door and go to this job. If it's something where I need like a 16-foot A-frame ladder and I'm hanging an 8-foot, you know, rod or something like that, and it's going to take me a while, that might actually take me 2 hours because I'm going to really take my time, make sure all of the blades are balanced, make sure every single thing is tight. You know, a lot of times they're going to have a module, and just making sure that the fan doesn't wobble on a situation like that. Plus, if I have to have a second person, because a 16-foot A-frame is like a beast of a ladder, bringing that into one of these really nice houses and like banging up their sheetrock and doors and stuff like that, ain't about that life. So I would rather just have a second hand with me, but I have to pay that person, so I'm going to charge for that person as well. So I mean, like a fan like that could cost $300, $400, $500. It just kind of depends. So also a lot of them have to be programmed, and sometimes people will have like 5 ceiling fans that they want me to change out, and every single one of them has a module and they're programmable, and you have to sit and spend time programming every single fan and shutting power off to one so it doesn't learn the program from the other one, and then shutting this one off and making sure that one's turned on, and like going through the whole house and making sure all the fans, you know, that's time. You could probably spend an hour just programming fans. So that's kind of a moving target, really. I don't charge by the task when I'm doing something. I charge for my time because it costs me money per second that I'm in business, per minute, per hour. So I need to be making money per second, per minute, per hour. And then any materials I buy, I need to be making that money back, plus charging a little bit extra and adding profit and all of that stuff. So hope that answers your question. Roundabout way is like there isn't an answer, but it just depends on the craziness of it. Same thing for like chandeliers, you know, like I might have like a 400-pound fucking chandelier that these people want me to handle, that I've got to get scaffolding and 3 people, and you know, it weighs a ton and it's huge and it has all the crystals and crazy stuff, and it's 20 feet in the air, you know, or it might be like a 5-minute job over like somebody's kitchen table, and that's very different. That's like $200 or like $900 or, you know, more. All right, Sam D, what do you do when you have the urge to do electrical work in your sleep? Bro, that's my life. I do this stuff all day, like either talking to y'all or studying code, manuals, books, writing blog articles, doing videos, working out in the field, talking. The only friends I have are electricians. Like my entire fucking life is electrical. The amount of dreaming that I do that has electrical in it in some fashion, it's all the time. So like I'm either talking to people in my dreams that are electricians that I know, or I'm troubleshooting problems that are electrical, or like I just blew up a building and set something on fire and a whole bunch of fucking people died. Like it just depends. It kind of goes the gamut. But I'm always dreaming about stuff. I've had like t-shirt design ideas for electrical companies, all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm always, I say when you're in your dream, just do the work, man. Like fucking get to work. You can't escape it when you're in your dream either. I know you're just sitting there trying to be lazy, sitting on your fucking phone, and you got that journeyman back there yelling at you, get off your fucking phone. Can't escape it in your dreams either. I'm watching. From the dream state, from like astral projection. Wouldn't that be so fucked up if like the one thing you wanted to do was like to be able to just like relax and not have to do electrical work, and then you're dreaming about doing electrical work, and then I show up from an astral realm and I'm like, get to fucking work. I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna start haunting you in your dreams, Sam D. All right, Wyatt. I think a lot of us would get a hold of Dustin's tool. Whoa, wait, whoa, what? I think a lot of us would like to get a hold of Dustin's tool. Y'all are some weird fucking people. But you're my people. I'm weird fucking people too. I'm just gonna move on from that. Thanks, Wyatt. Have a good day, bro. All right, CD15 Turb 3D. I love that name. Did you tell your fans that crispy M&Ms are back?
Crispy M&Ms are back.
Tannerite Davis. Do you realize that showing the public how to do electrical work is ruining electrician wages? Oh, get fucked. No, it's not. You think I've been making videos for 5 years. In the last 5 years, has the wages for electricians gone down in America or the world? Because people watch this shit in like Russia, like all over the place. Have the wages gone down? No, they haven't. Electricians are getting paid more now than they were getting paid 5 years ago. Not everywhere, but I know here in town they are. I talk to a lot of electricians, like hundreds of thousands of you fuckers. There's nobody that is getting their wages ruined because all of a sudden there's these homeowners out there wiring 10,000 square foot custom homes on their own, or they're getting these jobs unlicensed at like industrial manufacturing plants, or Walmart's hiring Mr. Homeowner out there. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Nobody's losing any wages. And I'm not even making this stuff for homeowners. It's called Electrician U. It's obviously to apprentices, electricians. It's not called like DIY Electrical Channel Buddies. And I'm pretty good about most of my videos telling electricians or telling homeowners not to do electrical and to hire an electrician. So I think you're just bitching to bitch, my dude. Anyways, on that happy, positive note, I'm done. Goodbye. All right, the answer to today's trivia question: the space between and around charged bodies in which their influence is felt is called an electric field of force. Electric force field. It can exist in air, gas, paper, or a vacuum. Electrostatic fields and dielectric fields are other names used to refer to this region of force. Thanks, Navy! All right, that's your episode. Thank you guys so much for all your attention. Thank you for constantly throwing out questions that I can sit and answer. If you guys haven't yet, go to Clubhouse. Please follow me. I do a talk every Tuesday about electrical with some other electricians. I'm trying to get some instructors. If you're a master electrician, journeyman, it doesn't really matter. Even if you're an apprentice, come and show up. I'm trying to get some speakers, some people that can actually speak with me, and we can have some conversation and then take answers from a bunch of people in the audience. But it's a really cool app. So check out Clubhouse and join the Electrician U group. Link in the description below. As always, follow me on all the socials, all the Facebook and the Discord and all the things. Make sure that you join the channel membership if you want to support this channel. That's an awesome way to do it. Make sure you hit the notification bell, hit the like if you liked the episode, hit the sub. Anyways, I love you crazy fuckers, and I'll see you in the next one.
Best music and video.